Hi, welcome back to the Roundtable. I'm your host, Steven, and today I'll be talking about the surprise release, or I was surprised, of the physical release of the soundtrack to Pretty Woman, the musical, which Bryan Adams and Jim Valance have apparently re recorded together and released. I think it was a week before So Happy It Hurts album, and I didn't realize it was released in a physical format. I have reviewed a couple of the tracks that I heard online, and I walked into the store last week and picked up the physical copy. I didn't realize it was out. It was a surprise. So there you go. Surprise. Good surprise for me and Bryan Adams fans that you can finally pick this up as a physical copy. It's made up of 16 tracks. What I'm very happy is that it's Jim Valance, who, if anybody who doesn't know, Jim Valance was his original songwriter in the early 80s and 90s, and basically wrote his biggest hits like Summer of 69, Heaven, Cuts Like a Knife, Run to You, It's Only Love, and the list goes on. These guys were a hit making machine in the 80s and early 90s. They did break up for a while and got back together. I know Jim Valance has now returned into the fold and writes a couple of songs here and there on his albums, but these are 16 tracks, are all written by Bryan Adams and Jim Valance. So the question is the magic there between them? Yes. The director of this musical wanted a 80s and 90s feel, and Bryan Adams and Jim Valance recaptured that style of music, of the big choruses and everything like that, really well. It's a great throwback to the 80s, and it's Bryan Adams and Jim Valance's strong point. He was at his peak commercially in the 80s and 90s, and this just brings him back to, I guess, a sound that he's comfortable with or knows like the back of his hand, and it shows on this soundtrack. For all this, there are 16 tracks. Like I said, the ones I like the best are "You and I," a ballad which I reviewed, I believe, on the site. Check it out. "You're Beautiful." It's a nice little pop song. "You Can't Go Back" is kind of like something off "Waking Up the Neighbors." If anybody's familiar with that 1991 album, there's a song called "Vanishing," and "Thought I Died and Gone to Heaven." It's a little mish of that, a little bit more guitar oriented version of that. I could get used to this. As a great rocker. The one that's really throws me off is "Welcome to Hollywood." The opening track sounds like a Stick song. If you remember Paradise Theater, the opening track, "Tonight's the night we'll make history." Don't ask me to sing it. We don't want to hurt people. But that reminds me of a Styx opening. So if you hear it, you get what I mean. All in all, it's a good album. The only song I didn't like on this is "Never Give Up on a Dream." There's a rap portion on there. I don't think that's his strong suit. I think he should not rap. I'll leave it at that. You listen to the song, you let me know. All in all, it's a great representation of Bryan Adams' strong suit of the 80s and 90s sound that he was a big part of, and technically his biggest commercial peak at that point. Great throwback to that. I really enjoyed this. It was a great surprise. I didn't realize it was a digital. It was, like I said, it was. I didn't realize there was a physical copy till last week. Walked into the store and was very happy to get it. Great album. I think if you like Bryan Adams, if you liked his reckless, cuts like a knife, waking up the neighbors, this has a little bit of all of that in there. Maybe not as good, but it does have that feel of the 80s and 90s Bryan Adams that I think a lot of fans love. So if you like that part, I think this is a great addition to your collection. If you like Bryan Adams, if you like musicals, it's up there. It doesn't sound too much like a musical, but there is a theme, and it's basically around the Pretty Woman movie, right? Or the musical, excuse me. But all in all, it's a decent album. I like quite a few songs here. A lot of songs will be added onto my Bryan Adams playlist, like the ones I mentioned. So, if like I said, if you do like Bryan Adams, it is worth your time to give it a check out. Like I said, it's maybe not better than "Reckless" or "Cuts Like a Knife" or Into the Fire, or even "Waking Up the Neighbors." Maybe not as good as that, but it's pretty darn close. It's up there. It has that feel and that sound that we all like from Bryan Adams. There's the catchy choruses, the guitar. His husky voice is still there, and it's not too harsh for anyone. It doesn't, it's good ear candy. Put it that way. Bryan Adams is ear candy. You know what you're getting with him, and it's usually very catchy. And and his ballads are heartfelt. I believe him. I think he's good at it. He can do a good rocker, a pop rocker, and he can do a good ballad. So you can't go wrong. Like I said, if you do like Bryan Adams, this is a really decent surprise that he released this the same time as around the same time as So Happy It Hurts. So I'm glad to see this. But you know what? Write to us. Let me know what you think. We'd love for you to share your thoughts with us. Hit that like button and subscribe. This is Steven recommending Bryan Adams' um, re-recording of the Pretty Woman soundtrack. Take care and have a good night.